Okay, monopolistic competition. Again, several of you may have been clever enough to already look at my presentation. But as you recall, there are four market structures. Perfect competition, where there's lots of sellers with no market power. Pure monopoly, where there's only one seller with total market power, or at least as much as the consumers will allow them to have, or the government. But today we're going to talk about monopolistic competition. This is probably the most common form of competition, where you have many producers producing a product that is basically slightly different from each other. So toothbrushes, ballpoint pens, you might even argue that in this day and age, computers and smartphones may have actually entered this market competition, monopolistic competition already, because you've got so many small producers. One thing that I should mention is that always use the full phrase, monopolistic competition, or this market is monopolistically competitive, because it's very easy to confuse monopolistic competition with monopoly. So you want to be very clear as you're expressing yourself, right? Other features of this are pretty easy entry and exit. There are low barriers to entry into this market, and there is a lot of non-price competition. So that could be advertising. I had a student in the past write about coffee shops in Ho Chi Minh City and how sometimes they used the theming or design of the coffee shops as a way to differentiate their product. So they were having very similar prices, similar products, but you would go in there and maybe they had cats in the coffee shop, or all the furniture looked like it was upside down, but really it wasn't. That kind of stuff. So it was a cool place. There's a place near me that has a waterfall. I like going there sometimes. All right, so some examples of monopolistically competitive markets: fast food restaurants. So how many fast food restaurants can you name in the next 10 seconds? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. It's not fun if you don't actually name the restaurants. All right, fine, I'll just move on. Perhaps furniture companies, jewelry stores, lots of these in Ho Chi Minh City, right? Hair salons, lots of these in Ho Chi Minh City. Clothing manufacturers, right? There's lots of companies that make blue jeans out there, but there's only one brand that fits your butt just right? Or at least that's what I find. All right. So monopolistic competition has some features of a monopoly and some features of perfect competition. I like to feel like, or say that, the producer has a monopoly on their own product. Okay, so nobody else makes a Samsung Galaxy Note. Other people might make something similar, but no one makes exactly that product. And maybe it has a few features that differentiates itself from other smartphones. No one else makes that perfect pair of jeans that you love, right? So because the product is differentiated, they do have a little bit more price control over their own product. Again, as I said before, if you have a premium product that is really different and people are willing to pay more for it, you can have a significant amount of price control. On the other hand, if you are not, and you're kind of a Johnny-come-lately to the market, and you don't have any features that really distinguish themselves, you're kind of generic, you're going to have less control. All right, demand is going to be greater than marginal revenue, which indicates a downward sloping demand curve. Plenty of advertising. And sometimes advertising tries to create the illusion of a differentiated product. When really maybe the product isn't so special, except it happens to be the sneakers that Michael Jordan wears, right? So you want those ones. Do you kids even remember Michael Jordan? All right, some of you maybe do. All right, basketball fans might. All right, it's not an efficient market structure. All right, in some ways it's like perfect competition though. You have a lot of smaller firms. It's relatively easy to enter and exit this market. And in the long run, that means we have zero economic profit since more firms can enter. So remember in perfect competition, when you had abnormal products, the sharks would enter. And now here, the same situation. So even though you might have some price control, what you're going to find is your product is relatively easy to copy. And so if you really have a great feature that no one else has, well, just wait, because the other guy's going to have it soon. All right, so the goods are not identical. Firms seek to capture a piece of the market by making a unique good, but since these products have substitutes, firms are using non-price competition. So maybe just the branding and the packaging. All right, so again, we see this a lot in fashion. But also, you know, some people might argue, well, maybe the iPhone is that way too. Product attributes, okay? Are there certain features that make your product different and better than the other guy? And it might not be better. It might target a certain specific market, right? So maybe you've got special shoes for mountain climbers or runners or tennis players, right? So it could be that. Maybe you provide a better level of service than the other guy. So you can think about maybe certain restaurants where, you know, they really offer excellent service and therefore are able to charge a higher price. Or location, right? Advertising, right? So advertising will have two goals. We want to increase demand, of course, but we also want to make that demand more inelastic, right? And so I don't know if you've ever found yourself telling your parents, oh, I have to have this particular brand, otherwise it's not cool or it's not good. Well, maybe, maybe not, right? It could just be that the advertising for that product was especially effective. All right, and so here we see differentiated products. And, you know, what's really shocking about this is we think there's a lot of competition in the market, but actually here we're looking at what, 3, 5, 7, 8, 9 companies, all right, producing. This is mostly, well, we got beverages and snacks and candy, and so kind of generally the snack food market. So here we have some kind of household items, right? But here we have just a small number of companies that own all of these brands. So the products are differentiated from each other. And they're probably, these companies are probably, in many cases, competing against each other in some way. Look at this. I just noticed this one. KFC, Taco Bell, and Pizza Hut are all Pepsi. That's amazing. All right. So there probably is some genuine competition in the market, but, you know, when you have these three brands all competing in the fast food market and the money's all going to Pepsi, it is still real competition. If you own a Pizza Hut, you want to outcompete KFC, but still, ultimately, they're all paying franchise fees to Pepsi in that case. Oop. All right, here we go, the fun part, drawing the monopolistic competition diagram. By the way, so you should have, oh no, I don't think you do. Never mind, I take it back. Drawing monopolistic competition. So in a monopolistically competitive market, we have price makers. So marginal revenue is going to be less than demand. All right, and then here we're adding in our marginal cost curve and our average total cost curve. Remember, where MC is equal to MR, that's going to dictate our quantity. Then we go up to the demand curve, just like we did before, to find out the price. And then we look at the average total cost curve to figure out the average total cost. So in this one, we're seeing just a small amount of competition, right? Sorry, a small amount of profit. All right. So in the short run, it's the same graph as a monopoly making a profit. Of course, there's no guarantee that the firm is making a profit. In fact, much less of a guarantee than a monopoly would have. And even they don't really have a guarantee. There we go. In the long run, though, new firms are going to enter, driving down the demand for firms already in the market. So what we have to understand about this demand curve is that it is only representing the firm's market share. So as more firms enter the market, each firm gets a smaller piece of the pie. So what we're going to see is this demand curve shift to the left, because while the whole market might still have the same amount of demand, this firm is getting a smaller amount, just a smaller piece of the pie, because it's being forced to share with the other firms, or maybe not share, but the other firms are taking market share away from our firm here. Right? So here we see, I don't know if you caught that, right? Now we are at normal economic profit, right? Zero economic profit. So short run, long run. Short run, long run. Boop, 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 boo, doo, 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 doo. Okay. So you see that difference clearly. All right. So price and quantity will fall. Total revenue will equal the total cost, and we will break even. And so this is our long run equilibrium. The quantity where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, and up to price equaling average total cost. What happens when there's a loss? Well, just like the same thing we saw with perfect competition. So in this case, MC equals MR is determining our quantity, and the demand curve tells us where our price is, and we continue going up. Whoops. We continue going up, and here we see our loss in green here. In the short run, the graph is the same as a monopoly making a loss. In the long run, firms are going to leave, driving up the demand for the firms already in the market. So hopefully you're that guy who sticks it out, not the guy who quits early. All right? So the demand shifts when short-run profits are made. New firms enter. New firms mean more close substitutes and less market share for each existing firm. Demand for each firm falls. When short-run losses are made, other guys are going to leave the market, leaving more of the pie for you, so your firm experiences more demand. So fewer substitutes, more market share for the remaining firms. Demand for each firm rises. And if we go back here to where I was having fun over here, right? We notice that, oh no, this is fairly, well, I was going to say it should actually, and it should actually become more or less elastic too, because of fewer substitutes. But that's really a fine point. We don't need to worry about that too So here we can see, right, as firms leave, demand becomes less elastic, more inelastic. All right, and I think the wiggling of the average total cost here is just kind of poor animation. I don't think the costs actually change. All right, so price and quantity increase and total revenue is equal to total cost. So we're back at zero. Are monopolistically competitive firms efficient then? Because we have, zero economic profit. Does that mean we're efficient? We have a long-run equilibrium. Well, allocative efficiency, what is that? That means we're producing where supply is equal to demand, right? So, up, not allocatively efficient. All right. We're not productively efficient either, because we're not producing at the bottom of the ATC. So again, we're not efficient. But it's really going to depend on the amount of competition in any given market. You're never going to get to that point of perfect competition, though, because nothing is perfect in life, right? And the assumptions of perfect competition are kind of extreme assumptions that you're not going to see in a real market. So, just live with it. On the other hand, consider this. We may not have the efficiency of perfect competition, but what we do have is variety in the marketplace. So you can get those jeans that fit you just right, or you can get, the pen with the sparkly thing on the end of it, or whatever it is that you like, the Spider-Man toothbrush that plays music while you brush your teeth, whatever that might be. All right. This firm also has some excess capacity. So, we're producing here where we're profit maximizing. We could be producing here, though, at the lowest point, or where supply equals demand, sorry. But we're not. So we are holding back a little bit. But again, if we were to, in this diagram anyway, we would make a loss if we did that. So we could do it, but we're not going to. All right, given current resources, the firm can produce at the lowest costs the minimum of ATC, but they decide not to. The gap between the minimum of the ATC output and the profit maximizing output, it's not the amount that's underproduced, though. So a firm can produce at a lower cost, but it holds back production to maximize profits. And there's our excess capacity. All right. Assume there's a monopolistically competitive firm in the long run, equilibrium. If this firm were to realize productive efficiency, it would write down your answer. Did you say B? Good. I knew you knew it. Good job. Okay. Which of the following statements about a monopolistically competitive firm in long-run equilibrium is true? Has excess capacity even though its long-run profit is zero and its output price equals marginal cost. Has excess capacity even though its long-run profit is positive even though its marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Excess capacity and output price exceeds the marginal cost even though long-run profit is zero. Has no excess capacity and long-run profit is zero. Has no excess capacity and marginal revenue equals its marginal cost. Okay, what's the correct answer here? Did you say C? You are correct. Alrighty, so now we're at the end here of this lecture. There are the go ahead and check all of these and If there's something you don't have, go back and review it. Except for the 10 types of candy. That's okay if you can't name 10 types of candy.